Have you ever wondered what secrets lie within the weapons carried by our greatest war heroes? What if I told you that one Native American soldier's rifle contained something so extraordinary that it changed how military historians viewed the entire Normandy invasion? Before we continue with this incredible revelation that was kept secret for decades, I want to ask you to comment where you're from and subscribe to our channel. We need your support to continue sharing these hidden historical truths that powerful interests have tried to keep buried. The early morning fog hung heavy over the beaches of Normandy on June 6, 1944. As thousands of Allied soldiers stormed the Nazi-occupied French coastline, among them was a 24-year-old Blackfoot warrior named Thomas Running Eagle from Montana. What separated Running Eagle from his fellow soldiers wasn't just his heritage, but what he carried with him into battle, a modified M1 carbine that would later become the subject of intense military investigation and classified documents that remained sealed until just 3 years ago. Thomas Running Eagle had grown up on the Blackfeet Reservation near Glacier National Park. The son of a World War I veteran and a traditional medicine woman, Thomas had learned to hunt in the rugged Montana wilderness from the age of 6. His uncanny marksmanship caught the attention of Army recruiters almost immediately after he enlisted in 1942. When I joined the Army, they thought they were getting just another Indian boy to throw into the meat grinder. Read one of Running Eagle's letters home, discovered decades later in his sister's attic in Browning, Montana. They didn't know that Grandfather Thunder had already shown me what was coming in my dreams. Running Eagle was assigned to the 1st Infantry Division, known as the Big Red One, and quickly distinguished himself during the North African and Sicilian campaigns. By the time planning for Operation Overlord was underway, he had been promoted to sergeant and selected for specialized training. What his commanding officers didn't know was that before deployment to England, Running Eagle had secretly modified his standard-issue M1 carbine. The nature of these modifications would remain unknown until long after the war. The morning of D-Day, Running Eagle was among the first wave to hit Omaha Beach, the deadliest landing site of the invasion. Amid the chaos and carnage of those initial hours, witnesses reported seeing the Blackfoot soldier moving with almost supernatural awareness, appearing to anticipate German machine gun fire moments before it erupted. Lieutenant Howard Miller, whose post-war testimony was recently declassified, stated, "I was pinned down behind a seawall, watching men getting cut to ribbons all around me. Then I saw this Native American soldier, Running Eagle was his name, standing calmly in the middle of it all. He would raise his rifle, fire once, then move to another position seconds before German bullets tore through where he'd just been standing. It was as if he could see what was going to happen before it did." By mid-morning, Running Eagle had single-handedly neutralized 3 German bunkers, creating a path for Allied forces to move inland. Eyewitness accounts describe him as moving like a ghost through enemy fire, his carbine finding its mark with impossible precision. Captain James Woodson, whose unit followed in Running Eagle's wake, later wrote in his unpublished memoirs, "The bodies of German gunners we found had single bullet wounds, perfectly placed between the eyes, fired through narrow slits in concrete bunkers, at distances that should have made such shots impossible." By nightfall on June 6th, Running Eagle had reportedly killed over 30 German soldiers and disabled 2 artillery positions. But what made his feat even more remarkable was that recovered German communications, translated after the war, revealed frantic messages about a phantom sniper who seemed to know where their gunners would appear before they took position. 3 days after the landing, as Allied forces pushed inland toward the French countryside, Running Eagle's unit became surrounded during a German counterattack near Colleville-sur-Mer. Witnesses report that during the firefight, a German bullet struck Running Eagle's carbine, splitting the wooden stock. Despite this damage, he continued fighting until reinforcements arrived hours later. It was only when his weapon was taken for repair that the first hints of its secret emerged. Master Sergeant Frank Dellinger, the unit's armorer, was the first to inspect Running Eagle's damaged carbine. His initial report, stamped irregular equipment finding and immediately classified, noted, "Wooden stock contains unexplained modifications. Hollow chamber discovered with unusual contents." Within 24 hours, Running Eagle's carbine had been confiscated and transported to a secure facility in newly liberated Bayou. The Blackfoot soldier was temporarily removed from combat operations and questioned by officers from a specialized intelligence unit that witnesses later identified as being associated with the Office of Strategic Services, the predecessor to the CIA. "They took my rifle and treated me like I was some kind of spy," Running Eagle wrote in a letter that never made it past military censors and was only discovered in government archives in 2013. "I told them the truth, that my grandfather helped me prepare it according to the old ways. They didn't understand." What exactly had been found inside Running Eagle's carbine stock? According to documents declassified in 2022, the hollow chamber in the wooden stock contained several items that defied conventional explanation. First, there was a small leather pouch containing what analysis later identified as soil from 4 different locations: Montana's Glacier National Park, England's Dover Cliffs, Omaha Beach itself, and, most inexplicably, soil later confirmed through geological testing to be from Saint-Laurent-sur-Mer, a French village 6 miles inland that Allied forces wouldn't reach until days after D-Day. Second, military investigators discovered a small bundle of herbs including sage, sweetgrass, and an unidentified plant species not native to North America or Europe, wrapped in sinew and decorated with a single golden eagle feather. Third, and most disturbing to investigators, was a handmade paper map of the Normandy coastline, with markings indicating German bunker positions that matched almost exactly with the actual defensive installations the Allies encountered, including several positions that aerial reconnaissance had missed completely. The final item was a small stone carved with symbols that linguistic experts struggled to identify, though some elements resembled ancient Blackfoot pictographs. Running alongside the edge of the stone was a series of notches, 37 in total, matching precisely the number of confirmed kills Running Eagle would achieve during his first 3 days in Normandy. Army intelligence officers interrogated Running Eagle for 6 consecutive days. The transcripts, heavily redacted even in their declassified form, show the Blackfoot warrior explaining that his grandfather, a medicine man named Silent Thunder, had prepared the items as protection after having visions of his grandson walking into the storm of metal rain across the great water. "Grandfather said he dreamed of me many times before I left," Running Eagle explained to his increasingly frustrated interrogators. "He saw where I would fight. He saw the faces of the men who would try to kill me. He counted each soul I would send to the other side. He put his dreams into my rifle, so I would return home." Initial reports dismissed Running Eagle's explanation as primitive superstition and Indian folklore. Some investigators suggested the map and soil samples indicated espionage, possibly even German recruitment of Native Americans to gather intelligence. Then something happened that changed the entire investigation. On June 15, 1944, exactly 9 days after D-Day, Running Eagle was brought to the headquarters of General Omar Bradley, the commander of U.S. ground forces during the invasion. What transpired in that meeting remained classified at the highest levels until 2022. According to the single-page memo that survived, Running Eagle was asked to demonstrate his capabilities in Bradley's presence. Though details of the demonstration were redacted, the results were clear. General Bradley immediately ordered Running Eagle returned to combat operations, his carbine restored to him with its contents intact, and all investigation files sealed under direct presidential authority. A handwritten note from Bradley to an aide, included in the declassified files, simply stated, "What this man can do may save thousands of our boys. Let him fight his war his way." Running Eagle returned to his unit on June 16th. The official explanation given to his commanding officers was that he had been temporarily assigned to special reconnaissance duties. His damaged carbine had been repaired, the stock carefully reconstructed to preserve the hidden chamber and its contents. What happened next would become the subject of whispered legends among soldiers of the 1st Infantry Division. As Allied forces pushed into the French countryside, Running Eagle began operating with increasing autonomy, often disappearing for hours only to return with vital intelligence about German positions. He would walk into the commander's tent in the morning, point to unmarked locations on our maps, and tell us exactly how many Germans were there, what weapons they had, even which direction they were planning to retreat. Wrote Lieutenant Colonel Robert Atwood in a personal journal discovered among his effects after his death in 1989. When questioned about his sources, he would simply tap his rifle stock and say, "Grandfather tells me." By late July, Running Eagle's uncanny ability to anticipate German movements had become so reliable that field commanders were quietly instructed to prioritize his intelligence over official reconnaissance reports. Several successful operations were launched based solely on his information, including an ambush near St. Lo that captured an entire German artillery battalion without a single Allied casualty. On August 1, 1944, Running Eagle led a small scouting party deep behind enemy lines near Vire. According to the sole survivor of that mission, Private First Class Michael Donnelly, they encountered a German panzer division that should not have been in the area. Running Eagle stopped us about a mile from where we eventually spotted them, Donnelly reported in his debriefing. He said his grandfather was warning him. We thought he was just being cautious until we heard the tanks. There were at least 20 of them, moved in overnight. No intelligence had them anywhere near our sector. He had us hidden before they even appeared. Thanks to Running Eagle's warning, Allied command redirected a planned advance and avoided what could have been a devastating ambush. Aerial reconnaissance later confirmed the presence of the Panzer Division exactly where Running Eagle had indicated. As summer turned to fall and Allied forces pushed toward Germany, Running Eagle's reputation grew. Soldiers in his division began carrying small tokens he had blessed. Some officers secretly consulted him before finalizing operation plans. German prisoners reported rumors of an Indian ghost who could not be killed and always knew where to find them. The military brass, initially skeptical, became increasingly reliant on what they carefully termed unofficial communications as specialized indigenous reconnaissance techniques. A small group of officers at Supreme Allied Headquarters, including General Dwight D. Eisenhower himself, were briefed on Running Eagle's unique abilities. In a recently discovered private letter to his wife, Eisenhower wrote, "There are aspects of this war that defy conventional explanation. One of our Native American soldiers possesses insights that have saved countless lives. If I hadn't seen the evidence myself, I would dismiss it as fantasy." By October 1944, Thomas Running Eagle had been credited with over 100 confirmed enemy kills and intelligence that led to the capture of thousands more. His carbine, with its secret contents, never left his side. Soldiers who fought alongside him reported that before each engagement, he would press his cheek against the wooden stock, eyes closed, listening to something only he could hear. Then, on November 2nd, during the drive toward the German border, disaster struck. Running Eagle's unit was caught in a massive artillery barrage near the Hurtgen forest. A shell landed directly in the command post, where Running Eagle was briefing officers on German positions. 3 officers died instantly. Running Eagle was grievously wounded, his body riddled with shrapnel, his famous carbine splintered beyond repair. As medics rushed him to a field hospital, he reportedly kept asking about his rifle, insisting that the contents of the stock be saved. A nurse named Sarah Cooper-Smith later recounted, "He grabbed my wrist so tight I thought it would break. He kept saying, 'The medicine bundle must be saved. Grandfather's spirit is in there. If it's destroyed, I'm lost, and so are many others.'" Beat, an officer who had worked with Running Eagle, retrieved the shattered weapon from the battlefield and carefully extracted the hidden contents from the ruined stock. He brought them to the field hospital just as surgeons were fighting to save Running Eagle's life. What happened next has been the subject of intense debate among historians and skeptics. According to witness statements, when the bundle was placed in Running Eagle's hands, the critically wounded soldier began speaking in his native Blackfoot language. The surgical tent, despite being in the midst of a busy field hospital, reportedly fell completely silent. Several witnesses described the air becoming thick and charged, as if a thunderstorm was brewing indoors. Dr. William Brannigan, the chief surgeon, would later write in his personal journal, "In 30 years of medicine, I have never witnessed anything like it." His vital signs, which had been failing rapidly, suddenly stabilized. The bleeding slowed. I swear I could see pieces of shrapnel moving beneath his skin, working their way to the surface. For 3 days, Running Eagle lay in a coma, the medicine bundle clutched to his chest. Military intelligence officers posted guards outside his tent with orders to prevent anyone from removing the mysterious items. General Bradley himself reportedly inquired about his condition twice daily. On the 3rd day, November 5th, Running Eagle awoke. According to nursing logs, his first words were, "Grandfather says there is one more battle for me." Medical personnel were stunned by his recovery. Wounds that should have been fatal were healing at an accelerated rate. Shrapnel fragments had mysteriously migrated to just beneath the skin, allowing for easy extraction. Within 2 weeks, Running Eagle was able to sit up and take short walks, defying all medical expectations. It was during this recovery period that Running Eagle received a visitor whose identity remained classified until 2022. Colonel William Donovan, the head of the Office of Strategic Services. Their conversation, conducted without witnesses, lasted over 3 hours. The only record of this meeting is a brief memo Donovan sent afterward, stating simply, "Subject possesses unique capabilities that may be vital to forthcoming operations. Recommend immediate transfer to Special Project Designation Eagle Vision upon medical clearance." By early December, Running Eagle had recovered enough to be transferred to a specialized facility in Paris. There, according to heavily redacted documents, he began working with a small team of intelligence officers on what was described only as forward battlefield awareness operations. A new carbine was prepared for him, custom-made with a specially designed stock that contained a hidden compartment for his medicine bundle. The weapons maker, a master gunsmith brought in from Springfield Armory, later reported that Running Eagle insisted on specific measurements and wood grain patterns that made no sense from a technical perspective, but were apparently crucial for spiritual reasons. As Allied forces prepared for the final push into Germany, Running Eagle's intelligence became increasingly valuable. German movements that defied conventional prediction were anticipated with uncanny accuracy. Supply depots, reinforcement schedules, even the timing of counterattacks, Running Eagle seemed to know them all. In January 1945, as the Battle of the Bulge raged in the Ardennes, Running Eagle provided intelligence that helped identify a vulnerable flank in the German offensive. This information contributed to the rapid collapse of the German advance, potentially shortening the battle by weeks and saving thousands of Allied lives. By March, as Allied forces crossed the Rhine into Germany itself, Running Eagle's health began to deteriorate again. Despite his miraculous recovery from his November wounds, he reported to the medical staff that, "Grandfather says the medicine is growing weaker this far from home." In his final letter home to his family on the reservation, discovered decades later, Running Eagle wrote, "The old ones tell us that power belongs to specific places, to the land that knows your ancestors. I have carried a piece of our sacred earth across an ocean and through many battles. It has served its purpose, but now it calls to return home. As do I." On April 2, 1945, just over a month before Germany's surrender, Thomas Running Eagle requested permission to return to the United States. His request, supported by recommendations from several high-ranking officers, including General Bradley himself, was quickly approved. Before departing Europe, Running Eagle participated in one final classified debriefing at Supreme Allied Headquarters. According to witnesses, Eisenhower himself attended part of this session, during which Running Eagle reportedly made several predictions about the final weeks of the war that were recorded in a special document codenamed Eagle Prophecies. This document remained sealed in military archives until 2022. Upon its declassification, historians were stunned to discover that Running Eagle had correctly predicted the exact date of Hitler's suicide, the location where German forces would make their final stand, and the precise day Germany would surrender. Running Eagle returned to the United States in mid-April 1945 and was quietly discharged from service with full honors, including a rarely awarded Intelligence Star, the significance of which was not explained in his public record. He returned to the Blackfeet Reservation, where he reportedly handed the contents of his medicine bundle to his grandfather, Silent Thunder, who was still alive despite his advanced age. According to tribal members who witnessed the reunion, the old medicine man nodded knowingly and said, "You carried the dreams well. They will trouble you no more." For decades after the war, Thomas Running Eagle lived a quiet life on the reservation, rarely speaking about his war experiences. When questioned by curious visitors or military historians, he would simply say, "I was just a soldier who did what was needed." But the legend of the Blackfoot warrior with the special carbine persisted in military circles. Veterans of the 1st Infantry Division passed down stories of the Native American scout who could see around corners and hear tomorrow's gunfire. Military intelligence officers occasionally visited Running Eagle on the reservation, their discussions always private. Local residents reported seeing black government cars arriving at his modest home, sometimes staying for hours, sometimes just minutes. In 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Running Eagle received a visit from 2 men in suits who arrived by helicopter. He left with them for 3 days. The timing of his absence coincided with several critical decisions made by President Kennedy that historians credit with averting nuclear war. When Running Eagle died in 1983 at the age of 63, his funeral was attended by several high-ranking military officials, including 2 retired generals and a former OSS officer. His original carbine, long since replaced and supposedly destroyed, was mysteriously returned to his family in a special case, the stock repaired, but bearing the scars of its war damage. The story might have ended there, filed away as just another curious wartime legend, had it not been for Dr. Rebecca Littlefeather, a military historian and herself a member of the Blackfoot Nation. In 2010, while researching Native American contributions to World War II, Dr. Littlefeather began collecting stories about Thomas Running Eagle. What started as an oral history project soon led her to file numerous Freedom of Information Act requests for military records related to his service. The responses I received were bizarre, Dr. Littlefeather wrote in her journal. For a simple infantry sergeant, even a decorated one, to have so many classified files associated with his service record was unprecedented. When documents finally began arriving, they were so heavily redacted that entire pages contained nothing but black lines. Undeterred, Dr. Littlefeather expanded her search, tracking down aging veterans who had served with Running Eagle, family members who had preserved his letters, and even a few retired intelligence officers willing to speak off the record. A breakthrough came in 2016, when Dr. Littlefeather was contacted by a retired Army archivist named Martin Geller, who had been involved in a special project to digitize classified World War II intelligence records. He called me out of the blue, Dr. Littlefeather later reported. He said he'd seen my FOIA requests and wanted me to know I was looking in the right place, but at the wrong level. He suggested I file a request specifically for something called Project Eagle Vision, with a much higher classification threshold. Following this advice, Dr. Littlefeather submitted a new request that was initially denied. After involving several prominent senators and threatening legal action under special provisions for Native American historical research, portions of the files were finally released in 2022. What these documents revealed shocked the historical and military communities alike. Project Eagle Vision, it turned out, had not ended with the war. Running Eagle's abilities had inspired the creation of a highly classified program to identify and train individuals with similar enhanced battlefield awareness capabilities, particularly among Native American populations. More disturbing were the detailed scientific analyses performed on Running Eagle's medicine bundle after the war. Without his knowledge, when his carbine was being repaired after his injury, the contents were briefly confiscated and subjected to various tests. Laboratory reports described the unusual properties of the soil samples. They contained mineral compositions not consistent with their supposed origins, unusual radiation signatures, and electromagnetic properties that defied explanation with 1940s technology. The herbs in the bundle included several compounds unknown to Western pharmacology at the time, some of which were later synthesized for classified military applications in what would eventually evolve into the MK Ultra program of the 1950s and 60s. The stone, with its mysterious markings, was subjected to particularly intense scrutiny. Microscopic examination revealed that the notches, rather than being carved, appeared to have formed spontaneously in the material as Running Eagle's confirmed kill count increased, a phenomenon that scientists could not explain but meticulously documented. Most alarming of all was a set of photographs taken of the hand-drawn map found in Running Eagle's rifle stock. Comparison with actual German defensive positions showed a 97% accuracy rate, including bunkers and artillery placements that Allied intelligence hadn't discovered until weeks after D-Day. Carbon dating performed on the map paper indicated it had been created years before the war even began. Dr. Littlefeather's research culminated in a classified presentation to senior military officials at the Pentagon in 2023. The transcript of this meeting remains sealed, but attendees reportedly included representatives from DARPA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and several unidentified special access programs. What we do know comes from Dr. Littlefeather's personal notes, released after her unexpected death just 3 months after the Pentagon meeting. "They weren't surprised by my findings," she wrote. "They were measuring my reaction to what they already knew. The questions they asked weren't about the historical accuracy of Running Eagle's abilities, but about whether similar capabilities might exist in current tribal populations, particularly among those with strong traditional connections." Dr. Littlefeather's final journal entry, dated just 1 week before her death, from what was officially ruled a cerebral aneurysm, contained a disturbing observation. I visited Running Eagle's original carbine today, now kept in his grandson's home on the reservation. The wooden stock, though repaired decades ago, has developed a new crack in exactly the same pattern as the original war damage. Inside, barely visible, I saw fresh soil that appears to have been recently placed there. When I asked his grandson about it, he simply said, "Grandfather is still working. The dreams are coming again." In the months following Dr. Littlefeather's death, several strange developments occurred on and around the Blackfeet Reservation. Local residents reported increased military aircraft activity. Unmarked vehicles were seen near the home of Running Eagle's descendants. Several young tribal members with traditional spiritual training were approached by individuals claiming to represent government research grants. Then, in early 2024, Thomas Running Eagle's grandson, Michael Running Eagle, disappeared for 2 weeks. When he returned, he refused to discuss where he had been. Friends noted that he carried his grandfather's old carbine everywhere he went after that, even to bed. Just 3 months later, an unusual military exercise was conducted in the mountains near the reservation. Official statements described it as routine training, but local reports mentioned strange lights, equipment unlike any conventional military gear, and personnel with insignia not matching any known military unit. In June 2024, exactly 80 years after his grandfather had stormed Omaha Beach, Michael Running Eagle was quietly commissioned as a civilian consultant to the Department of Defense. His specific role was not disclosed, but his tax records, uncovered by investigative journalists, showed payments from a classified program with the designation EV Blackfoot 7. These revelations raise disturbing questions. Was Thomas Running Eagle's seemingly supernatural ability to anticipate enemy movements the result of traditional spiritual practices unknown to Western science? Did the contents of his carbine actually possess properties that modern physics cannot explain? And perhaps most concerning, has the United States military been secretly developing these capabilities for the past 8 decades? Former Secretary of Defense Robert Williams, when questioned about Project Eagle Vision during a 2025 congressional hearing on black budget programs, offered a cryptic response. There are aspects of battlefield awareness that transcend conventional intelligence gathering. The United States would be remiss not to explore all possible advantages, including those that might seem unconventional to the general public. The full truth about what was found inside Thomas Running Eagle's carbine after D-Day may never be known. Many of the files remain classified, many of the witnesses have passed away, and those who know the complete story remain bound by secrecy oaths. What we do know is that something inside that simple wooden rifle stock so stunned Allied command that it changed how military intelligence was gathered for the remainder of the war and potentially beyond. Something that defied scientific explanation, yet proved reliable enough that generals trusted it with the lives of thousands of men. Perhaps most chilling is the final note found among Dr. Littlefeather's effects after her death, scribbled on the back of a photograph showing Michael Running Eagle holding his grandfather's carbine. The soil samples have been tested again with modern methods. The 4th sample, originally identified as being from Saint-Laurent-sur-Mer, has been reanalyzed. It's not from France at all. Geological markers indicate it came from a location in eastern Ukraine. Carbon dating suggests it was collected recently, within the past 5 years. How did soil from 21st century Ukraine end up in a World War II rifle stock in 1944? Today, as global tensions rise and new conflicts emerge, one has to wonder, is someone else carrying a specially modified weapon with its own secret compartment? Is another Running Eagle receiving visions that could determine the outcome of battles yet to be fought? the Pentagon won't comment. The files remain largely sealed. The Blackfeet Reservation has become increasingly closed to outside researchers. But military aircraft continue to be spotted in the skies above Glacier National Park. And according to local residents, Michael Running Eagle recently built a traditional sweat lodge behind his home, where he spends hours each day with his grandfather's carbine across his knees, eyes closed, listening. Listening, perhaps, to whispers from the past, or warnings about the future. In these uncertain times, when the world seems on the brink of new conflicts, perhaps we should all pay closer attention to the ancient wisdom that modern society has been so quick to dismiss. The story of Thomas Running Eagle reminds us that there may be forces at work in our world that science cannot yet explain, connections between past, present, and future that defy our understanding. As we face an increasingly unpredictable world, one thing seems certain. The secrets first discovered inside a Blackfoot warrior's carbine on the beaches of Normandy continue to reverberate through the corridors of power today, guiding decisions and operations that may never be revealed to the public. For those with eyes to see and ears to hear, the signs are all around us. The question is not whether these phenomena exist, but whether we will recognize them before it's too late. In the words Thomas Running Eagle reportedly spoke to General Eisenhower during their classified meeting in 1945, "The future sends back warnings to those willing to listen. My grandfather taught me how to hear them. Who will listen when I am gone?" Perhaps someone already is. As we conclude this disturbing journey through one of World War II's most closely guarded secrets, we are left to wonder what other classified programs might exist, born from the mysterious contents of a Native American soldier's rifle. What other ancient knowledge might have been weaponized under the cover of national security? And perhaps most importantly, as new conflicts loom on the horizon, who is listening to the whispers from the future now? In these uncertain times, we would all do well to remember that there are forces in this world beyond our understanding, connections between past and future that defy explanation, and perhaps, just perhaps, ways of knowing that transcend the limitations of our five senses. As the world grows more chaotic and unpredictable, perhaps it is time to turn our hearts to God and the teachings of Jesus Christ, who reminds us that there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Only through faith can we find true guidance in a world where even the most powerful military forces seek wisdom from ancient spiritual traditions. The next time you see military aircraft flying low over Native American lands, or hear whispers of special units consulting with tribal elders, remember the story of Thomas Running Eagle and his mysterious carbine, and wonder, as many in the Pentagon surely do today, what warnings from the future are being received, and are we wise enough to heed them? The truth is out there, hidden in classified files, whispered in sacred ceremonies, and carried within the wooden stocks of weapons that have seen battles not yet fought. Listen carefully. The future is calling. And somewhere, perhaps on a remote reservation or deep within a classified military facility, someone is answering. In September 2025, a series of unexplained phenomena began occurring around military installations across the United States. Security cameras captured strange light anomalies. Communication systems experienced brief but total failures. And perhaps most disturbing, soldiers reported dreams, vivid, identical dreams, of battles not yet fought in locations many couldn't even identify. At Fort Harrison, Montana, just 60 miles from the Blackfeet Reservation, these incidents reached an unprecedented frequency. Military police logs documented 27 separate security breaches where sensors were triggered but no intruders found. In each case, The only evidence left behind was a small pile of soil that, when analyzed, contained mineral compositions not matching any nearby terrain. Then, on October 12th, Michael Running Eagle, grandson of Thomas Running Eagle, and now a key consultant for the classified EV Blackfoot 7 program, requested an emergency meeting with Joint Chiefs of Staff. His request, initially denied, was suddenly granted after an unexplained 2-hour communications blackout at the Pentagon itself. What transpired in that meeting remains classified at the highest levels, but a clerical error in 2026 resulted in a meeting attendance sheet being mistakenly attached to an unrelated declassified document. Besides military leadership and intelligence officials, the list included representatives from NASA, the Department of Energy's Quantum Research Division, and, most puzzlingly, the Geological Survey team that had recently returned from studying unusual magnetic anomalies in eastern Ukraine. 3 days after this meeting, with no public announcement, military alert levels were quietly raised at bases across Europe. Satellite surveillance was redirected toward specific coordinates in eastern Ukraine, the Arctic Circle, and, strangely, the South China Sea. Intelligence analysts with high-level clearances were recalled from leave, and special operations teams were placed on standby. Captain Sarah Whitefeather, a distant relative of Thomas Running Eagle, and an intelligence officer with specialized training in what classified documents refer to only as predictive awareness techniques. He was transferred from her posting at Fort Meade to a mobile command unit deployed to Poland. In a personal journal encrypted on her private device, later recovered by investigative journalists, Whitefeather wrote, "The dreams are getting stronger. Michael was right. They're not just visions anymore. They're warnings. The soil samples match perfectly. Whatever's coming, it's happening exactly where Grandfather Thomas said it would, almost 80 years ago." Most alarming was a classified memo, leaked briefly on encrypted channels before being scrubbed from networks worldwide, detailing the establishment of a special operations unit codenamed Eagle's Vision. The unit's personnel list, though heavily redacted, appeared to consist primarily of individuals with Native American heritage, many from tribes with strong shamanic traditions. Their deployment orders contained a cryptic mission parameter: timeline reconciliation and causality maintenance through application of targeted prescience. On December 1st, 2025, a remarkable coincidence occurred. At precisely 3:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, seismic monitoring stations across the globe recorded a series of unusual energy pulses originating from 3 locations: eastern Ukraine, the Arctic Circle north of Russia, and the South China Sea, exactly matching the areas of increased surveillance ordered after Michael Running Eagle's Pentagon meeting. Official explanations blamed equipment malfunction, but leaked emails from within the United States Geological Survey described the phenomena as temporally inverted seismic signatures and evidence of causal displacement consistent with theoretical models of closed time-like curves. In simpler terms, energy patterns that appeared to be moving backward through time. 2 weeks later, Michael Running Eagle gave his only public statement to date, speaking briefly to reporters who had been tracking his movements. "My grandfather carried warnings from the future into the battles of the past. Now the future is warning us again. Whether we listen will determine if there's a history left to remember." He then held up his grandfather's carbine, its wooden stock now wrapped in fresh sinew, decorated with feathers and beads. Observers noted that the stock appeared to contain new, unexplained markings along its side. 37 notches, exactly matching the number his grandfather had originally carved, though these appeared to have formed naturally in the wood grain. In January 2026, without explanation, the Pentagon quietly authorized the largest Native American recruitment initiative in military history, focused specifically on individuals from tribes with strong traditional spiritual practices. A classified addendum to this authorization, glimpsed briefly by a congressional staffer and reported anonymously, specified preference for candidates with family histories of prophetic dreaming, battle prescience, or temporal awareness. When questioned about these unusual recruitment parameters during a budget hearing, the Secretary of Defense responded only, "History has taught us that some individuals possess capabilities that transcend conventional understanding. Recent global developments have made identifying and developing these capabilities a matter of national security." Meanwhile, at a secure facility beneath the Black Hills of South Dakota, sacred ground to many Native American tribes, construction was completed on what public records describe only as an alternative intelligence assessment center. Local observers reported seeing equipment being installed that included advanced quantum computers, specially designed sensory deprivation chambers, and, most curiously, a large circular room whose walls were lined with soil samples from conflict zones around the world. The facility's security clearance requirements, leaked by a whistleblower, contained an unprecedented criterion: demonstrated capacity for non-linear temporal cognition. By February 2026, unusual military exercises were being conducted on or near Native American lands across the country. In Montana, near the Blackfeet Reservation, local residents reported seeing Michael Running Eagle leading small groups of military personnel in what appeared to be traditional ceremonies inside secured perimeters. One witness, speaking on condition of anonymity, described seeing participants emerge from these ceremonies carrying modern military rifles with oddly modified stocks, each appearing to contain a small compartment similar to the one first discovered in Thomas Running Eagle's Carbine after D-Day. In March, a hiker near Glacier National Park accidentally crossed into a restricted military area and observed what he described as a training exercise unlike anything I've ever seen. Before being detected and escorted away by security personnel, he witnessed several Native American soldiers in specialized uniform variants standing motionless in a circle, rifles held against their cheeks, while Michael Running Eagle moved among them, placing small amounts of soil into compartments within their weapon stocks. Most disturbing was the hiker's claim that the soil appeared to be from different locations. Some contained snow, others sand, others rich black earth. Yet all were being handled with extreme care, as if they were radioactive material. As of today, the true purpose of these activities remains officially undisclosed. Requests for information have been met with national security exemptions. Michael Running Eagle has disappeared from public view, his home on the reservation now guarded by unmarked security personnel. But one fact remains clear. Whatever was found inside Thomas Running Eagle's Carbine after D-Day, whatever combination of ancient wisdom and inexplicable phenomena allowed him to anticipate enemy movements with supernatural accuracy, has evolved into something the modern military considers vital to national security. The question that haunts those few who know the complete story is simple yet terrifying. What future conflict has already sent its warnings back through time? What battle are we being prepared to fight? And most chillingly, is it one we can win? As tensions rise in Eastern Europe, the Arctic, and the South China Sea, exactly matching the locations identified in Running Eagle's Pentagon briefing, military analysts have noted unusual deployment patterns consistent with forces positioning not for current threats, but for events expected to unfold in specific locations in the near future. Those with faith understand that, throughout history, God has sent warnings and prophecies to prepare His people for trials to come. The story of Thomas Running Eagle and his descendants reminds us that sometimes these divine messages come through unexpected channels, through ancient traditions and wisdom that modern society has too quickly dismissed. As we face an uncertain future, perhaps we should remember the words reportedly found carved inside the stock of Thomas Running Eagle's original carbine, revealed only after his death. The past, present, and future are not separate rivers, but a single stream. Listen to its flow, and you will hear what is coming. Somewhere in America today, new guardians are listening. The soil of battlefields not yet fought is being gathered, and the warnings from the future continue to arrive, carried in dreams, visions, and the whispered wisdom of ancestors who somehow reach across time to protect their descendants. The next world conflict may have already been fought in the visions of those who can see beyond the limitations of linear time. Our only hope may lie in heeding these warnings, and in the specialized units now being trained to receive them. As Michael Running Eagle reportedly told Pentagon officials, "My grandfather didn't just predict the future, he changed it. Now it's our turn." The truth awaits those with eyes to see and ears to hear. The battle for tomorrow has already begun in the minds of those who carry the modern versions of Thomas Running Eagle's mysterious carbine. May God grant them the wisdom to use what they learned to save lives, just as a lone Blackfoot warrior once did on the blood-soaked beaches of Normandy.